Namaste. Welcome to another edition of Navima's reading session. So today, as promised, we are back in our 40 minutes time for our next reading session. Next reading session is, let me just do one more thing. Uh, This needs to be removed. Yeah. So today we are going to read the second reading session for the book Saundarya Lahari. This is a 100-year-old translation. Okay. So this is uh, Rishi will give you much bit more details because people who have joined new, they might not know the history of this book. This is Shankara. Okay, and this is Saundarya Lahari. These are the hymns composed by Adi Shankaracharya, and many gurus and acharyas have interpreted those hymns, Sanskrit hymns, into their own language. So this is an exposition by Pujya Sri Chandrasekhara Saraswati Swami, 68th Shankara of Kanchi, Kamakya Pitha. So, and this is one of the best interpretations, one of the best karikas. So, in Sanskrit or in the Advaita Vedanta term, it's called karikas. So, you might have heard about the Mandukya Karika. So, this is the book, very important book. This is also available free of charge on archive, but I have the book, I have read the book. So, now what we will do is we'll have Rishi go through the book. So, we will go to chapter 2. It's a small chapter, but we will go to chapter 2, and also we'll try to cover a little bit of chapter 3 itself. It's a big chapter, but we'll try to cover it. It will take us about 1.5 hours. So, Namaste Rishi, how are you?
Namaskar. I'm very much fine right now and excited to read the chapters.
Sure. Okay. So, audience, is the text okay? Do let us know. Just give a thumbs up or just say yes. We have, I have, let me just check. I have made it about 300. So,
Namaskaram,
it should
Abhay.
be, yeah. Namaskar, Abhay. Namaskar, Sneha. So, let's start reading the book. And if we see any comments, I'll take it. Go ahead, Rishi.
Yes. Chapter 2, the Saundarya Lahari, the crest of devotional poetry. Shankara wrote numerous devotional works, and the Saundarya Lahari remains the crest of all of them. What do ordinary people know about the Acharya? Do they know that he wrote a commentary on the Brahma Sutra, that in it he establishes Advaita as the ultimate truth, that his is the last word on the subject. But one thing is certain, the very mention of his name brings to their mind a number of devotional poems authored by him, particularly two of them, the Bhajagovindam and the Saundarya Lahari. So, in this first small para, nothing much to discuss, but Kanchi
Yeah.
Mahaperiyava, the commentator. Hmm.
Just one thing. So, correct, we are reading now Sundar Lahari. Do you have any insights on the Bhaja Govindam? Like, is it very well
Yes,
known
yes,
in because correct,
yes, yes, absolutely.
normally you will see Sundar Lahari lot been talked about because it has a lot of philosophy. So Bhaja Govinda is also philosophical text, or
Yes.
it is something else?
It is a philosophical text. It is much more geared towards sadhana, like uh, how to cleanse your mind, and all those topics are much more discussed.
Hmm.
Bhajagovindam
Okay.
especially became famous because of yeah. So Bhajagovindam especially became famous because of that great singer, Srimati M.S. Subbalakshmi ji, and her great voice. In one should always try to listen that whole presentation of hers of this great hymn Bhajagovindam. So just the background of that small poem, and maybe we can proceed to the next
Yeah,
paras.
go
So
ahead.
Bhajagovindam
Yeah,
was yes,
go ahead. Go ahead.
yes, sir. Yes. So I will just complete it in a couple in a short way. So Bhajagovindam was authored by. It was actually told extempore, which then was corrected as the poem. It came out as a response to a pandit in Kashi who at the ripe old age of 80s was uh, trying to learn Sanskrit and was arguing over grammatical rules. So on that, Shankara Bhagavad Pada responded. So it goes like this: the first stanza. One can I will recommend it again. One can please listen to the song of Bhajagovindam by M.S. Subbulakshmi. Bhajagovindam, 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 Moodhamate, Moodhaja Hihi Dhanagama Krishna. Such is the whole stanza. It goes as such. And it's another name of this Bhajagovindam is also Moha Mudgaram. Uh, it's supposed to be Mudgar is one of the weapons, also a training tool of the wrestlers uh, for building strong muscles, especially shoulders. So it's like a gada, a club. So it's supposed to be a club over upon the the moha that we have over life, the moha that we have over various pleasures. So it is supposed to be destroying all of these. So that's the point that is being mentioned over.
Yeah. So moha can be translated as attachment. Is that would be a
Absolutely.
approximate translation? Yes. So
Absolutely.
the attachments in life, right? So attachments in life that we have,
Yes.
and they
Hmm.
are a reality of life, but we need to go beyond them to actually realize uh, Brahman.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Go ahead with the next para.
So, yes, yes. The Saundarya Lahari, as you said, is the crest of all the devotional poetry he composed. It also represents the Shikhara, crest of his poetic genius. The meter in which it is composed is appropriately called Shikharini, and it has 17 syllables per foot. Another meter with the same number of syllables is Mandakranta, in which Kalidasa has composed his Meghadutam, a work full of poetic rasa. In this meter, each foot is divided into sets of 4, 6, and 7 syllables, while in Shikharini, the division is into 6 and 11 syllables. So, Kanchi Mahaperiyava over here explains the poetic tool which has been used in this great work, Saundarya Lahari. The meter also has been explained. It's the Shikharini meter with 17 syllables per foot, and it is a bit different from another 17 syllables per foot meter called Mandakranta, which is used by Kalidasa in his great work Meghadutam. So, for the interest of the audience, I shall chant one of the shlokas from Meghadutam so that you can understand what Mandakranta sounds like. सप्रत्यग्रैः कूटज कुसुमैः कल्पितार्घाय तस्मै प्रीतः प्रीति प्रमुखवचनं स्वागतं राजहार धूमज्योतिः सलिलमरुता सन्निपातः त्वमेघ सन्देशार्थ कपटुक कपट कपटुकरणैः प्राणिभिः प्रापणीयाः. So this is Mandakranta. It sounds as such. Whereas Shikharini, which has been used over here, that is a bit different. If anybody who's practicing sadhana or someone who worships Shiva, he may have encountered this stotra, very, very famous stotra, Shiva Mahimna stotra. That is in Shikharini meter. So, for the audience interest, I shall recite something from that great stuti, Shiva Mahimna stuti. महिम्नः पारं ते परमविदुषो यद्यः सदृशी this is how it sounds in the first stanza, and we shall get much more in the Saundarya Lahari itself, the first loka, uh, and maybe we can go into that work and explore it over there. I shall not busy the audiences over here upon the Sanskrit poetry. Dada, any question?
No, go ahead. Your voice was a little bit unclear, so I have got your mic adjusted. So please go ahead, and then we'll see.
Okay, let
Abhay,
me
do
let
let
me
us
do
know.
something.
Hmm.
Mhm. Let me do this.
So the audience can maybe comment on it. Is my voice clear right now, Dada?
You go ahead and go ahead. I'll check the chat, and also for me it is clear. So let's go ahead.
Okay, okay. Hmm. People learned in the arts of music and dance believe that better than talas with an even number of beats are those that are mishra, mixed, that is, combining an even number of beats with an odd number of them. The latter give greater aesthetic pleasure, combining as they do two tempos, two tempi. They impart verve to the music, and when it is needed, through the fast tempo, and the tranquilness needed for the same through the slow tempo. In the same way, in poetry too, there is greater beauty when the meter is divided into sets of syllables that are even and odd in number. Nothing much to explain over here. Maybe the audience can get the gist of it. So, Dada, something
Yeah, I think read along,
maybe
read
the
along.
yes. So, is the mic okay right now?
Yeah, yeah, mic is okay. Mic is okay. Go ahead.
Okay, okay. While the Saundarya Lahari is remarkable both for its poetic form and aesthetic beauty, its special distinction is that it is also a great devotional hymn.
So I think this ends
The
chapter
second
two,
chapter
correct?
ends. Hmm.
So
Chapter 2
yeah,
ends.
so chapter two is specifically talks about the technical aspects of poetry itself. So the meters, the syllables, and other things are discussed. But I think we'll find in chapter three a bit more on the philosophical aspect that we are reading. So go ahead and
Yes. Yes. Chapter 3, the Jnanin and Devotion. People nowadays view philosophy in isolation from other subjects. That is why they ask questions like this. Is it possible for an exponent of Advaita, like the Acharya, to have supported the way of devotion? It's all bunkum. Hymns composed by someone else must have been ascribed to him. The Acharya could not have also installed anything like yantras anywhere. We must remember that our Acharya was not like a professor. He did not teach philosophy as an independent subject. His mission was to raise people up, including those not capable of grasping philosophy, lift them up little by little according to their different levels of maturity and understanding. To those who were capable of taking the path of jnana, he imparted instruction in a thorough manner through his commentaries and prakarana works. But others he taught devotion, exhorting them to follow a life of karma or action in accordance with their swadharma. In pursuance of this, he visited various sacred places, installed idols and yantras there, and composed hymns to the deities. So in this para, something very crucial was addressed by Kanchi Mahaperiyava. So right now we see many so-called modernists, especially this actually started with 19th century. So the modernists, whenever they come across Acharya's works and they get enamored by the logical thinking and the sophisticated polemics and the uh, insistence of jnana, they readily start uh, dissuading all of the devotional works, saying that, oh, this could not ever be written by someone who talks about only jnana, someone who is such a polemic, such a logical thinker, such a tarkika. How can this be possible? It must have been written by someone else, ascribed it to him. This can never be possible. He never supported puja, he never installed yantras and so forth. On this, Acharya Kanchi Mahaperiyava answers beautifully that how Shankaracharya Bhagavatpada was not some professor in a college who's just teaching in his philosophical department. He was not an armchair philosopher. He was a Mahapurusha, he was an avatara, as is explained in the previous session also. He was here to raise the consciousness level of people, of the masses. In that, he came across people who were not at all capable at the first step going into philosophy and polemics and jnana marga at all. So what was needed for them was devotion, because devotion is the easiest way to raise someone's consciousness in the first place. So for those who were capable of engaging with polemics, who were clear enough to understand the Prakarana Granthas, for them he taught the commentaries, he explained the Prakarana Granthas such as Advaita Bodha, Aparokshanuhuti, etc. But for the masses, for everyone else who needed a guidance and a helping hand, he gave us such great devotional works. Also, he taught how devotion and following a life of karma yoga, as is explained over here so beautifully, to follow a life of karma or action in accordance with their swadharma, how that can actually help them raise above the rest. In pursuance of this, he visited many sacred places, as is known from the work Shankara Digvijayam by Madhavacharya, that he visited all over India, going every single Tirtha Kshetras and establishing the murtis, establishing yantras, rejuvenating the puja paddhatis, so on and so forth. And there and thereby also composing various hymns for the deities. Yes, Ada.
Yes, so this is really important. Important in a way that in the correct in 19th century, where the materialistic aspect of life and society took a kind of a giant leap, and we gained
Hmm.
a lot of material wealth, material well-being. And at that time, correct, this uh, branch created where philosophy was something which was not practical in nature. So the
Yes.
material aspect of human existence, okay, which is very important,
Hmm.
okay, and
Mhm.
that took precedence over spiritual, mental well-being of a human being.
Yes. Yes.
The kind of relations we have with our parents, with the siblings, with overall society and human connections. So now human
Hmm.
connections started slowly to degrade into just transactions rather than something that we feel emotionally at heart.
Actually.
And
Yeah.
that and that's how the when we talk about philosophy. So it's
Hmm.
very important to understand that when we read this, and when we read this description, that everybody has a different kind of intellectual capacity to actually absorb what they need to know, what they should be knowing.
Yes.
And so and same way, people who can reach spiritual freedom via devotion, they will do that. People who need philosophy, they will read Advaita. Okay. People who
Hmm.
are uh, geared towards worship of a devta, a murti, an idol,
mm,
they will do that. Okay. So, so correct. We have correct in Bengali. Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa said, "Joto mot
yes,
toto pot." Right. It is
yes, yes,
misinterpreted, but still, if we take the correct interpretation, it is that you can reach spiritual crest of how do you say spiritual awakening. Spiritual awakening can
hmm,
be done even by doing murti puja. It can be done over reading
yes,
Vedanta, Upanishads, or maybe just doing simple things, his work. Correct. Japan is
yes,
a very interesting example of this. In Japan, your work is something which is sacred to every individual.
mm,
So this
true,
karma and action is not considered as material but as a philosophical aspect to it. So we have lost it, we have lost that tradition, but in Japan it still persists that your work is something which is sacred and you need to do this with 110% or 200% of your every aspect, your mental strength, physical strength, and also concentration. So that's why we
yes,
see Japan became the second biggest economy in the world after the Second World War tragedy. And how it became? It because of karma yoga. And karma was not linked to just material aspect, but a spiritual aspect to it as well. So there are
true,
many philosophical
absolutely,
schools up there in Japan. As I think many people would know about ikigai.
hmm,
So there are many
yes,
philosophies how to live a life. Okay. And everybody individual
hmm,
have a different kind of philosophy, and they can adopt it. So that's very important. That philosophy is not something which is an abstract, which is optional. It is not optional. It is something that you need to imbibe to actually live a fulfilled life. Without philosophical foundations, without philosophical understanding of who we are, okay, and what we need to do, you can never find mental peace. However bigger flat, bigger car, bigger bank balance you have in life, you people still feel empty. We have seen empty amount of people who have achieved every material wealth people can imagine, and still at the end of life they will go and devote their life to various deities, Shiva, Krishna, or many others. Why it happens? Because that is the root of who we are. We need a philosophical foundation to lay our lives and to grow our lives emotionally, mentally, and also philosophically, spiritually.
true, true, true. Also, to add to your point, I think another thing that was there in this 19th century era, with especially in India, with advent of British and other foreigners, Christian missions came, and that was the time when Enlightenment too was happening. So the rationalist movement, which was also coming in, actually exasperated the whole situation, whereby every devotional aspect of our spirit, of our samaj, or of our public life, was ridiculed in the most vilest of manners, as we can see from even the works of Raja Ram Mohan Roy,
Hmm.
who himself also was very much influenced by rationalist movements, but he noted the fact that how some of the missionaries were so vile in their language while deriding Hindu practices, especially devotional practices, in the most vilest of and abuses. One of the example is of Jagannath Rath Yatra, which was totally lampooned, and Juggernaut word also came in with that. It was uh, symbolized as something demonic and so on and so forth. So, as a response, there were many kinds of response, but one of the responses was from this section of society which Rajaram Mohan Roy came from. It was to intellectually counter them by uh, proving that we are much more intellectually superior than you are, the opposing foreign faction. So one of the things that they took in was especially with Brahmo Samaj, it happened that they totally took in the polemics of Advaita Vedanta, and in that uh, they although they represented the logical side of the Advaita Vedanta, but they totally given that they were also influenced by the rationalist movements and such circumstances in the Samaj itself, they also started deriding the devotional works, especially. So this is also one of the reasons. I think such a compartmentalization happened, where Acharya was thought like he could not have written such great works of devotion at all.
Yeah. So, like, see, there is a kind of, see, when we talk about the Sanatan Dharma and its philosophical aspect of it, like, so, uh, first of all, correct, we lost touch with our inner self, okay, while in the race to gain material wealth and material well-being, okay, and that normally would happen, correct. I think we were talking about in the previous things, previous stream as well, where correct the
Yes,
human mind is a binary mind by nature.
yes, 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 yes.
So human mind would not like to see something as complex because it has to spend a lot of energy to actually comprehend, and
Mm,
human mind, so it will automatically gear towards yes and no, okay, binary thought of it, okay. So something which is
mhm,
looks in front of you, you would say, okay, okay, that is something true. What you can see in front of you, you will consider this as the perennial truth. And something which is abstract in nature, you cannot see, and you have to spend years and years to actually learn about it, understand it,
mm,
comprehend it,
mm,
imbibe it in your own psyche. And most people
mm.
would not have the time or the capacity to do this. So this binary thinking
True.
is part of human mind itself. Okay. So, and
Yes.
because it's very complex, people would not
Mm,
want to. People want simple answers. People don't want
yes, yes.
very complex thing to discuss. So
Absolutely.
that becomes a kind of where you see, correct, there were a lot of Hindu things which were actually derided, okay, as
Yes.
demonic practices. That comes from
Yes,
that
yes.
binary thinking, okay, because it's easy for human
Absolutely.
mind to comprehend and understand and practice.
Mm,
So in that aspect, we need to understand one specific thing, is that
mm,
one is that because of thousand years of invasions, we lost a lot of intellectual people who could actually explain this to people. Well, it's a very
mm.
complex thing to understand. Okay, so correct. We will read more about the state called Turiya in the
Yes, yes.
Mandukya Upanishad. In
Remind.
the Yeah, so in the Mandukya Upanishad, we talk about, correct. So we have a physical body, the gross body. Okay, then you have mind, then you have Turiya, okay, the state of mind, like who we are, correct. So in that way, to understand all these things, it's very difficult, and people would generally would not go deep into this until you have somebody who could actually guide you to understand it. And we lost those people who could actually guide the human civilization to do this. Fortunately, so we still have people who wrote these things. We are rediscovering this in our own ways, reading about it, and we are also helping people to actually go and read and understand about it. But it will go on. So like you, this is Kali Yuga, and as per Bhavishya Purana, only 10% of the dharma will exist. So
Mhm.
that's how it is. So we have a question.
Yes, Dharma stands on
Is
one
it
leg. Yes.
interesting question we have? How is music very important for sadhana? Is there any treatise on it? Very interesting question.
Uh, yes. There are many treaties actually, but Dada, I wanted
Mm-hmm.
to tell you something. So, can I rejoin
Oh,
again? So some
yeah, yeah. Go
problems.
ahead, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead. You
Yes, yes,
rejoin.
yes, yes,
I'll discuss the thing. No issue.
yes, yes.
Hmm. Okay, so this question is very interesting question. The first part I try to answer, okay, but second part I do not know. I need to go and check. The first part of your question is how is music very important for sadhana? Okay, so we need to go a little bit sideways on this. First of all, understand the correct mantras. How mantras are very important uh, doing puja, doing meditation. Okay, so sound plays a very important part. Okay, into us human body. Correct. So human we can actually hear a certain spectrum of sound waves. So mantras, as people would know, mantras are very powerful, and now there are scientific studies which have shown that chanting a specific kind of mantra in a very specific designed way with proper pronunciations, uh, it can actually elevate your emotional state, your intellectual state. It will give you peace of mind. So first understand sound and how important sound is to human consciousness and human body itself. Okay. And music is sound, but in a very rhythmical way. So when you are talking about sadhana is about correct. You are trying to get in touch with your inner self, and some people would like to do this in a very and one more thing, you would see correct. There's thing called lofi music. So if you go to YouTube, you will see a lot of lofi music being there, and you will also see concentration music. If you want to study, there would be a very low frequency music being played, and it helps you to study and concentrate better. So your mental state, your emotional state, your conscious, your spiritual state, and the kind of sound or music, it is an aid to it. And the power of mantras that we know from Rishi, that how mantras actually powerful and how they act in terms of our mind and spirituality. Rishi.
Yes, yes, absolutely. On the issue of the music being very important for sadhana, so music is something which actually uh, it actually requires a lot of concentration. In fact, so this very aspect of concentration is what we know as dhyana in popular language. In not even in even in popular language as well, also in yoga shastra as well. So this is why Sangeetam has been such
Rishi,
an important aspect.
Rishi,
Yes.
Rishi, one question to like even to me actually, and for the audience. Is there a
Mhm.
difference between dhyana and meditation?
Yes, there is. So dhyana in in the Yoga Shastra context, it's about concentrating on um, one single object, and that object needs to be a mantra or a vigraha, and so on. Whereas in meditation, uh, although it's not specifically explained as something about concentrating on a certain object or a or a hymn or something. Rather, it is much more seen as contemplation, or sometimes it is seen as much more in the terms of relaxation of mind, and so on. You may get to see that in meditation apps are basically not about concentrating on certain mantras. Some of them are right now, but if you see the Western meditation apps, those are much more about relaxing your mind, relaxing your senses. It's all about goody goody feelings, much more rather than about concentrating or dissociation of uh, from other thoughts which are trying to interfere in your mind every time that you want to when you want to think about the mantra or the vigraha. So there is a very crucial difference in both.
Yes. So let's take also, we'll talk about this also. This is interesting. So Sanatan Satwat is saying meditation, very low effort or not at all putting any effort. Okay.
True, true. To some
Yeah.
extent,
Now
yes.
let's go to Abhay's question, because that's a very interesting question, and we generally do not talk about it.
Yes. So on the second question of Abhay on whether or not there is a treatise, yes, there are many treatises. One of them was authored by one of the Shankaracharyas of Sringeri Peetham, and the who was in his Purvashrama the Prime Minister of Harihara and Bukkaraya, the first kings of Vijayanagara Samarajya, Madhavacharya, Sri Vidya Swami. He authored a text called Sangita Sara, explaining over there about the meticulousness of the whole Sangita tradition within our system, as well as the dhyana aspect as well.
Yes, so we'll go to this one more question from Abhay. So we'll talk about this, but let's talk about this. Uh, See, these are very difficult things to talk about, because there are people are talking about this. Rishis, learned people, acharyas are talking about this for thousands of years. There are n number of treaties written about this, treaties, books, karikas have been written about it, and it's a very long thing. But yes, so meditation is only one aspect of Yoga Sutra. Correct, Rishi, if I am not wrong.
Yes, Nada Yoga, there is an aspect of over there, Sangita comes in. Yes.
Yeah. So like meditation, see, there's one more thing. Concentration and meditation. I mean, like these are very similar words, and they have similar functions, but they are not exactly the same. So when you talk about concentration, correct? Are you doing concentration while doing meditation? We need to ask this question. That if you are
Exactly.
concentrating while you're reading a book, is it meditation? And what exactly you do while doing meditation that you are not doing while doing only concentration on a specific task? Okay. Again, it's very confusing. Let's talk about Zen philosophy. Okay. Zen comes from correct Bodhidharma. Correct, Rishi? Bodhidharma.
Yes, 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 yes.
So
Dhyana,
Bodhidharma
Chan,
was,
Zen.
yeah. So Bodhidharma was a Buddhist monk from Tamil Nadu who traveled to China, and from China he had a bit of a disagreement with the king, and then he went to Japan. Now Zen or Dhyana, so Dhyana becomes Zen, and it became a kind of separate branch of philosophy in Japan, which is practiced now in Japan as Zen. Okay, Zen philosophy. So now in Zen philosophy, every aspect of human existence, whether we are eating, drinking, walking, doing, is considered as meditation. Life itself is considered as meditation. Correct, Rishi? If I am able to explain it.
Yes, 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 they do so.
Okay. So
Even
now,
gardening as well.
yeah. So like, if like human existence itself is become a kind of meditation. Like you
Hmm.
exist, whatever you do, it is path towards doing something. So you meditate on every aspect of human life. So every aspect of human existence becomes sacred. Now
True,
again,
true.
so now it becomes very confusing thing, that whether if you're going to follow Zen, then every whatever you are doing is part of meditation, even doing work. Now when you come to Yoga Sutra, meditation and dhyana has a different aspect to it. So how they have been described, Rishi knows much better than me. I know a little bit of it. I do some meditation by myself. Okay. But again, dhyana and sadhana. So when you say I am doing bhairav sadhana, okay, and when you say I am doing dhyana, are they same?
A bit different, but I mean the dhyana is included within the sadhana. So sadhana is the macro concept, and dhyana is a micro concept within it.
Correct. So if you are doing sadhana, So, and sadhana is an overarching principle, and within the principle, you have sub activities that would be called correct dhyana.
Yes.
And dhyana has a specific spiritual aspect to it, which connects
True.
to your Isha Devata or whoever you worship, whoever you think is your Devi or Devata, whoever you want to incorporate in your life, or take that Devi or Devata as your deity. Okay. So now,
Yes.
so so it's a very complex thing to talk about, but in generally, again, I said human mind is a very binary mind. Okay, so people need to sell and market things. So they will say, okay, if you have hypertension, if you have don't have mental peace, you go and do meditation. But they are, by just doing meditation with an app, you are maybe touching not even 1% of the spiritual aspect which actually it can give you. If you can start with meditation, then you can do a bit of dhyana. From dhyana you can graduate to doing sadhana. Then you will see a transformation takes place where your whole life becomes something else. Your thought process, your perspective will change gradually, and you will see that, okay, lot of things which bothered you on a day to day basis, they are there, but you are not bothered by them. You are not disturbed by their existence, and you can live a relatively peaceful life, a bit fulfilled life. Not because
True.
you have a lot of material wealth, because that you know how to live whatever material wealth you have right now or in future. So we are not experts. So I think you can read books. I would suggest
Yes.
Abhay to go and maybe listen and watch some lectures of Swami Saratyananda. He's a very eloquent speaker. He speaks in English. He also speaks very good Bengali and sometimes Hindi as well. So listen to these gurus who have trained themselves over decades to learn about these philosophies and able to expound these concepts, complex concepts, in 1.5 hour lectures. We are not here. We cannot do that thing. We can guide. We can tell you. Okay, you can read some books, watch some lectures, and so that you can find out more about it. I would suggest first read Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, because that would be a good beginning actually, because it's not that complex. So Patanjali Yoga Sutra you can read, and then you can understand the stages of a human consciousness, how it, especially the part where you have correct, you have that 8 chakras.
Yes.
I forgot.
Uh,
I for,
Ashtanga Yoga.
yeah,
Ashtanga Yoga.
Ashtanga Yoga. Ashtanga Yoga. Study about Ashtanga Yoga, and that will actually help you to understand a little bit more about it. Okay, there is, okay, this is interesting.
Yes.
What do we what we do is everything is samarpit to Bhagwan. Our karma, our breathing, the billions of bacteria that is being killed in doing so everything. Okay, very interesting question.
Yes, it's a very good comment actually, also,
Hmm,
Dada.
hmm,
Like
hmm,
this Samarpana, this is
hmm,
actually what Kanchi Mahaperiyava is also talking about, like action in accordance with their Swadharma.
hmm,
Um, this is actually a principle which is adapted from Karma Yoga. So, what is Karma
hmm.
Yoga effectively in Bhagavad Gita? Ishwararpita Karma. The Ishwararpita Karma, where you totally surrender the phala or the fruits of the karma to Bhagavan, and you do the karma, in fact. So, with this, actually, this Samarpana Bhava comes in. And this is actually what has been recommended for us by Bhagavan himself in Karma Yoga.
And yes, one more thing. So when we talk about swadharma, like in practically it would mean, correct, if I am a kshatriya, my dharma,
Mhm.
my swadharma is to go and fight. And by
Yes,
doing
one of it,
fight,
yes.
by doing this fight, by doing yuddha, I will have to hurt
Mhm.
somebody. So does it
Mhm.
mean that I am doing something? adharma?
No.
So we need to understand the swadharma and adharma, and also related to karma. Okay.
Yes.
Being
Absolutely.
being a warrior, it is my swadharma to fight, and to fight,
Yes.
I need to learn how to fight with different kind of weapons, different
Yes.
kind of instruments. Okay. So my
Yes.
karma becomes to actually go and learn those skills. Only then I
Yes.
can do my swadharma of being a warrior. The warrior trait,
Yes.
being a warrior, is my swadharma. But to become
Mm.
to like implement my swadharma, to live my swadharma, I have to learn the skill of a warrior, and that requires action. That requires keeping my body fit. That requires I am eating protein, because as a yodhya, I need to have the physical strength to do fighting. If I am going to have a diet of a brahman, I will not be able to fight, depending on where you are born, and which environment you are. So this binary part of it, that if I am doing something bad, it is not inherently bad. You need to understand whether it is your swadharma or your adharma that you are doing. If your swadharma is that I need to fight, and in that I may hurt another human being, that's part of my karma, and that cannot be considered as adharma. In So, Rishi.
Yes. 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 Absolutely. You're correctly explaining it, Dada. In fact, and nothing more I can add actually at all. This is such a crucial, important point that one needs to be always reminded of it. Especially with us Hindus, we totally forget this every single time.
Yeah, correct. There is a very correct Hindi proverb कि
Mhm.
घोड़ा अगर घास से दोस्ती करेगा तो खाएगा क्या? If a horse is going to
Wait.
friends with the grass, then what he will eat? Okay. If
Pick. Mm.
if a lion becomes friends with a deer, then what he will eat?
True.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So we'll this last comment, and then we'll go ahead and read the bhava
Mhm.
behind action is important. Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Hmm. So bhava would mean correct intention in general English. Okay.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
A kind of correct. It cannot be translated in that way, but bhava would mean
Yeah. Yeah.
intention. At what intention you are doing something.
Mm-hmm.
But that also needs to be an honest intention. A lot of time
Yes.
we do games with ourselves itself. Okay. We want something, but we convince ourselves that okay, we are doing this for somebody else, but in actuality we do it for ourselves. So a lot of times
True.
we play double games with ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
that we convince ourselves I am doing this for the good, but inherently we know that this will help me as well. So we need to be also honest in that intention. The intention is 100% what exactly we want, rather than we are having kind of pollution in our also intention. That we
Yes.
see correct. I'll give an example, which very very interesting example. So when the child becomes grows up and he is going to college, correct. Now the parents are so much attached to the child. Okay. And they will have enormous pain, they will feel enormous pain if the child goes away to study somewhere else for 2 or 3 years, and they will not able to see them. But the parents know that the child's future will be good if my child goes and study in that college or in that specific university. Now the inherent pain of not seeing your child, and the good that it will create for the family and also for the child itself, so it becomes a kind of an intention. Like now you have to actually be honest with yourself, that I am okay with the pain, but my intention is that intention is to do good for the child, so that pain the intention to give pain to yourself has a good intention of giving a brighter future for the child. So that's why the intention actually matters. Namaste, Vaishali. Okay, so that's important, and we will see a lot of parents would actually get their children admitted to local colleges and universities, and they will not send their child to other cities that they will not be safe, or they cannot live without us. But is that really they are doing something which is good for the child? Rishi, what do you think? It's a very philosophical
No, in
question
fact,
indeed.
no, you are correct, Dada. In fact, it is much more harmful sometimes. Uh, like if you restrict the child from places where he has to face challenges alone, then when the parents won't be there after their demise, how long is that adult gonna be a child? He has at the end of the day like he will need to experience pain, suffering, so on and so forth, but at that time he will not be prepared at all, which he was supposed to be when he was young. So it is really an important lesson.
And yes, and correct, sometimes parents would actually convince themselves that okay, my child will not be able to live a good life, so he should be here. Correct. So the parents
Yeah, yeah.
convince themselves that they are doing good for the child, but inherently they will also realize okay, we had better options, and we
Yes,
did not
true.
explore it because they become bit selfish out of
Yeah,
love. So the intention is
true.
not bad.
Yes,
Intention is not bad, but the intention has to have a practical application to it. We need to see
yes, yes, yes.
the intention needs to have a foresight about it. Intention
Mhm.
should should not be like a temporary gain, temporary pleasure.
Yes, 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 yes.
Okay,
Duradoshtita.
yeah. So durdarshita something is which is important when you talk about intention. What kind of intention you are talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Ah,
True.
this is this is
Didi.
very important. This is no, this is very
Yes.
important. Tough love.
Ah, yes. Ah,
Yeah, there is raising some very interesting issues. Independence and freedom are not exactly the same. In life, independence is developing the capability of taking responsibility on one's own. Very interesting, and that it should be
mhm,
there.
mm.
This is interesting. Rishi, you can take this.
Yeah, it's a great word play, I think. Swadhinata and Swechhacharita. Uh, Nothing could be better than this.
So, like it cannot be translated into English. Okay, that Swadhinta independence, we know this
Yeah, yeah,
Secha
no.
Charita, Secha Charita, and that is born out of I would say bit bit
Swadhinta
more.
is. Mm.
So Secha Charita and selfism is the same. We can equate it in the same way.
Uh, mm, I think Swechhacharita we can equate with the what could we say? Ram. Yes, what you have used as well. That could be also the word for it. Swadhinta is much more about self-control, in fact, like
Exactly.
having the ability to self-control, uh, not being tied to someone else's mm, ropes, if you could say that. So we get in Swechhacharita, especially, we are actually much more dependent. In fact, in Swechhacharita, we are uh, running towards pleasures. Something which is pleasurable to our eyes, to our tastes, to our smell, so on and so forth. There is the effect of Swechhacharita, whereas in Swadhinta, we have self-control over ourselves. We do not go around everywhere, even if it may feel temporarily that, oh, it is attractive to us. No, 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 no. We will actually think before going forward into that direction even. So, yes.
Mm. Okay, there are a few more good comments. Okay, Boishali has given a bit more explanation. Shadhinata, the Bengali word is Shadhinata, has an element of respecting maryadas, appropriate boundaries. It has an element of responsibility and an element of dharma, the ability to sustain an equilibrium. I think Boishali has put it in words perfect. uh, People can understand what exactly it means
Mhm.
and what it
Mhm.
entails actually. So thank you, Bhajaliti, for this.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go ahead and read,
Yes.
and then we'll
Yes.
talk a bit more about it. Go ahead.
Yes. Absolutely. We often hear people arguing thus: the man who believes that all is one is a jnani. Devotion implies that God and his devotee are two different entities. So a jnani can never be a devotee. People who speak thus cannot claim that they have realized monastic jnana. Think of Shuka Brahman. Shuka Brahman is referring to son of Maharshi Veda Vyasa, Shukadeva. Think of Shuka Brahman, who was a true Advaitic jnani. What was he like? Or take the examples of Madhusudana Saraswati and Sadashiva Brahmendra. Madhusudana Saraswati, for the interest of audience, he was one of the greatest Advaitin scholars ever born on the soil of India. He was a Bengali. He was born in present Bangladesh district Faridpur. Uh, Not just that he was a great scholar, but also he was the one who brought in the akhada system within Dashanami Sampradaya, the warrior systems. So he is being referred to over here, Madhusudana Saraswati. And Sadashiva Brahmendra, another great Avadhuta, Advaiting Jnani from Tamil Nadu. He was one of the greatest scholars in the court of, I think, the Maratha kings of Tanjavur. Uh, he is being referred to over here, Sadashiva Brahmendra. They were jnanis, but at the same time, they were supreme devotees. In fact, they have even authored devotional hymns. We shall discuss that. Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, for example, accepted Advaita, but all the while he kept chanting Kali, Kali. In recent years, we have had the example of Ramana Maharshi, a great Advaitin who sang the praises of Arunachaleshwara. Over here in this para, Kanchi Mahapeyava takes another question. It's a very common question that how can one be a jnani if one still believes in separation of Lord and the devotee? Isn't it supposed to be that a jnani always recognizes the oneness amongst everything, including the Lord and the devotee? So this has been answered over here, that one who asks this has never ever even realized what a jnani is truly. As he gives the example of Shuka Brahman, he is truly being called an Advaitic Jnani, which is very much which is very much in front of us if we ever study or listen to Bhagavata Mahapuranam. In the last chapter, especially in the 11th and 12th canto, not chapter, 11th and 12th canto, you have Shuka Brahman giving his Upadesham to Parikshit Maharaj, and it is completely full of Advaita. But he is also one of the greatest bhaktas of Sri Krishna. The complete Bhagavatam is an evidence to that. The second examples were of Madhusudana Saraswati and Sadashiva Brahmendra. Madhusudana Saraswati, as I have said, great Advaitin scholar, a warrior as well. He was one of the greatest scholars since he was the one who actually defended Advaita at the time when it was being attacked from multiple sides by multiple school of thoughts in Bharat. And those attacks were truly very powerful. He was the one who single-handedly saved Advaita Vedanta at that juncture. Given that he was an Advaitin, still he is that same Advaitin scholar who completely uh, accepted the difference between Lord and the devotee. as we get from his famous shloka, Vamshi Vibhushita Karannavanira Dabhat, Pitambara Daruna Bimba Phaladaroshtat, Urnendu Sundara Mukhadara Vindanetrat, Krishnat Param Kimapi Tattvamaham na jane. That's Sri Krishna who wears yellow clothes, who has basuri, who has the flute in his hands, who is so beautiful, who is so handsome, so beautiful to look at. Comparing his eyes and Oshta with the lotus petals. That Sri Krishna, that Bhagavan is the Paramatattva. That is the declaration of Madhusudana Saraswati, an Advaitin, completely in the rasa of devotion. Also, he is the one who authored a work called Bhakti Rasayana, explaining bhakti as a rasa. Sadashiva Brahmendra, another great Advaitin scholar, Avadhuta. Dada will be very interested to know, since he will be, if I tell him, he can actually easily visit that place where one of his samadhi still exists till today, Sadashiva Brahmendra's. Sadashiva Brahmendra wrote such great hymns, and also, given he was a great Advaitin scholar as well, this never proves the so-called dichotomy which was being posed by the supposed Purvapaksha, that Ajnani can never be a devotee. That famous song, which is also sung in Tamil Nadu and other areas, Pibare Rama Rasam, that is a song of Sadashiva Brahmendra. You have multiple songs, Bhajare Raghuviram Manasam, these are his songs. So it completely demonstrates that Ajnani is actually one of the greatest devotee. Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, what to say of him? The great devotee, the great Pandit, the great Purohita of Dakshineshwar Kali temple, sage of 19th century, single-handedly saved Hindu Dharma from the clutches of many cults in Bengal at that time. He was an Advaitin, as we know from his own sampradaya. He was taught by his guru Totapuri Maharaj, and one of his other gurus was Trilanga Swami, again a Shankara Vedantin. Again, him being an Advaitin, still he was always chanting Kali, 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 nothing else. And at last we have the great example of the great sage Ramana Maharshi of 20th century. Again an Advaitin who lived all his life in Arunachala Parvatam, and he sang the praises of Mahadeva Arunachaleshwara. Yes.
Yes, so there is a question from, yeah, here it is. Let me just share the details here. So we are reading a book called Saundarya Lahari. So let me give you the book itself. So where is it? Yeah, Svetan. So this is the book that we are reading. It's called Saundarya Lahari. Saundarya Lahari is a hymns composed by Adi Shankara, and these are the commentaries in English. So Saundarya Lahari is an Sanskrit text, Sanskrit hymn. It is translated and it is also translated and also explained in English by an exposition by Pujya Chandrasekhara Saraswati Swami. So he was the Shankaracharya, 68th Shankaracharya of Kanchi Kamakya Pitha. So like we don't know Sanskrit, and also we will not able to understand the full philosophical aspect of it. So we are reading this specific book. It is available as a PDF as well in archive. You can buy the physical book as well. So this is the book that we are reading. So the PDF is there, and this is the physical book that we have. This we are reading. So it's like a philosophical text where we have the meanings attached.
Abhay, on your comment on Bhakti tradition being developed in South, I would say not just South, even in Maharashtra as well. Take the example of the Varkari Sampradaya. Unbelievable compositions have come out of that Sampradaya.
Yeah. We try to read as much as possible, but it requires a bit of preparation and people who understand it. So I cannot read
Mhm.
Sanskrit, so I take help of Rishi because he can read Sanskrit. He has a lot more knowledge than myself. So, but I have the book, so I request Rishi. So Rishi comes and explains it in detail. Yeah, thank you.
Bhagavan.
Please join. And also, we are slowly going to actually open up our stream to guest readers. So like Rishi, Shekhar, Nina, we will also invite people who want to read the books with us. So rather than you
Yes.
becoming a kind of a passive consumer, consuming some content, the idea of the channel, the idea of us is to actually promote books, promote reading books, promote understanding our own Sanatan Dharma and its text. So you might not feel reading by the book. If you even buy the book, you might not feel read the book because reading alone without a guru, without something is very difficult. So we are going to open up our streams to guest speakers, guest readers. You can buy your own book or have PDF and read with us for 1 hour. So that will inculcate a habit of reading in young people or people of any age. So slowly you will pick up this habit of reading books, and that slowly again you will do it by yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely right. What Nathan is saying that that's why I have Rishi, correct. So even if I can read, I will not be able to interpret it in so many ways. So we would need, and you don't, sometimes it's not feasible to have a physical guru with you. So you can explore and you can find a lot of video series where learned people, acharyas, they're actually teaching Gita and other all these sacred texts in English and in any other languages. You can also learn from them as well. You don't have to have a physical guru by your side to do it, because in modern times that may not be very feasible thing. But we have YouTube, we have podcasts where you can go. There are series of people who would read and explain those things. Explore and then do it. So it doesn't have to be a physical guru himself, but you can, you have correct, Rajarshi Nandi. He can be a guide while learning sadhana, learning wherever sadhana itself. Yeah, so let's go ahead and
Yes.
read a bit more.
Mhm. Yes. Yes. There are also saint poets like Manik Kavachakar, Nammalvar, Arunagirinathar, and Tayumanavar, whose hearts melted in devotion, but in their devout outpourings there appear flashes of the Advaitic bliss they experienced. Over here, Kanchi Mahapeyava remembers the great saints of Tamil Nadu, Manik Kavachakar, the author of Tiruvachakam, Nammalvar. His compositions are the most in uh, uh, the text, which is called in Ramanuja Sampradaya as Dravida Vedam, the Tamil Veda. Uh, there you have hymns of Narayana on Sri Krishna, Nammalvar. Arunagirinathar, one of the greatest bhaktas of Subramanya, Kartika Swami, um, Murugan. And I don't know about Tayu Manavar, but maybe we will know about him after completing the chapter later. So these
Yeah,
are the things. Arunagirinath.
so let's
Yes.
yeah, let's read one more page. I think we'll finish in about 20 minutes. So let's read
Mhm.
one more page.
Mm. So just something which would interest the audience. Maybe you will like it. I'm just recommending from my own personal experience. One of the compositions of Arunagirinathar in Tamil is very, very famous, and it's amazing to hear. It has been rendered by Kuldeep M. Pai ji. His channel is known to many. Uh, it is supposed to be the first Vachakam which came from his after he got boon from Kartikeya. So, so it's in Tamil. I I I I am a bit less adept at Tamil, so please forgive me if I pronounce it wrong. The whole hymn goes like this. Muttaittaru pattittirinagayattikkiri satticharavana muttaikuru vitta gurupara yena vodum. So this is a very, very famous Raudra Rasa composition of Arunagirinathar. One should try listening to that. Amazing. Just was excited to tell this.
Yeah, that was really good. Thank you, Rishi.
Dada, you will love it. I'm recommending you. You will love it. So
Yeah,
here,
let's continue the read.
yes. If it is argued that a jnani would not or should not compose a devotional work, I would say he should not compose a work on jnana either. If the logic of the former view is accepted, I would say that all those who have written works on jnana or taught jnana are not jnanis. Why do I say so? How do you identify a jnani? All this world is nothing but maya. Because of their nescience, it is that people regard themselves as individual jivatmans. That is, each thinks that he is a separate entity. It is out of realization of this truth that a jnani tries to free himself from the world and the mind that gives rise to such nescience so as to remain rooted in his self and to identify it with all in the awareness that there is no second. If such a jnani were to be a teacher, write books, and give discourses, even if the books and discourses relate to jnana, can his action be justified? There is a real world outside of him, and apart from him, there exists many jivatmans as separate entities. Does he have to think thus if he were to lift up the world that is apart from him by imparting jnana to people through his writings and discourses? It would mean that all preceptors of jnana were not truly jnanins. But can we take such a view? Would it not be a blasphemous thing? Would it not be blasphemous to do so? What would then be the power of the teaching of imparted by men lacking in jnana? What would be the power of one who has no inward experience of the truth? What a beautiful para is this. It's a great attack on such hypocrites who think that a jnani can never be a devotee. Beautifully argued that if such is the case that a jnani cannot even compose works on devotional work, then emphatically the Kanchi Mahaperiyava writes that he cannot even compose a work on jnana either. Why? Since someone who pretends to be as such, he is not a real jnani. Why is it so? He explains that if the so-called jnani admits that everything out there is maya, and because of nescience, which is ajnana, people regard themselves as individual entities called jivatmans. It is out of realization of this truth that a jnani tries to free himself from the maya and also from the mind which gives rise to such conceptions within him. And then he is supposed to root himself within the self and try to identify with that awareness that there is nothing called a second entity. So-called jnana, as a so-called jnani, who so-called realizes this, if he becomes a teacher, writes books and gives discourses, how can he do that? How can his action be justified? It is because you cannot act in the world without admitting that there is something called a real world and there are differences and there are separate entities altogether. Exactly. That is how Kanchi Mahaperiyava attacks. That if such is the case, then how can he even act? So-called jnani, who supposedly has to admit that everything is one, how can he even think of divisions when he's working? He cannot even eat food. After all, that's all that there is one. How is he getting so hungry at all? He then has to admit the differences which actually there is outside, which he is experiencing right now. So this is being beautifully explained, that this is why a gnani is also a bhakta, a devotee as well, because he does accept differences which is there in the real world. Yes, Dada.
Yeah, this is a very complex topic to actually even comprehend. Okay, that the difference between okay,
Hmm.
okay, this is very interesting thing. Jnani cannot be a prisoner of his ego. It's very important
Hmm.
thing that actually he has mentioned, which is very important.
True.
And like if I understood correctly in my personal point of view, correct. So when we see today's atheist scientists, okay,
Hmm.
who
Hmm.
are talking about that, as I cannot have a empirical evidence that Jivatman exists or Brahman exists, okay, I am going
Hmm.
to take the evidence which is in front of me. That's fine.
Yes.
But
Hmm.
are you are you reinforcing your own ego that you know everything, and to reinforce what you know exactly and can and convert it to everything that is that can be known, are you fulfilling your own ego rather than accepting that okay, it is very difficult to understand Jivatma and Brahman. Okay, it may exist, it may not exist, but that question, let it be open until we find some meaning to it, and until we find some answer to it. Why we have to have this stand that if something which is cannot be proven by a certain method, again there is one more thing which is needs to be understood, is that we have taken the scientific method as the only legitimate method where we can ascertain truth, where we can ascertain reality. Why can not there be another method by which we can ascertain reality and truth? Why their method is the only method? is there
True.
is there no question on their method?
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
this scientism, okay, so
Hmm.
we have isms where you have a set of beliefs, and you
Hmm.
believe that those beliefs are the only beliefs which can lead to truth, which are the real truth itself. So
Hmm.
Vaishnavi mentions it. Unless you have an open-minded approach to science, every hypothesis is true till it is not. You cannot be a
Oh,
scientist. Exactly.
beautiful.
Now we see the opposite is being propounded by a scientist, that my
Hmm.
method is the greatest. Now you have to prove Brahman on my methods, on my pitch. That I will set the rules. Okay. Now you need to play by my rules and set out that Brahman exists. Okay. As I have convinced myself that this is the only way, and people and others have to accept that that is the only way. Now
True.
that itself becomes that when you say I am a jnani, when your ego becomes more than your jnani part of it, so you are not becoming jnani. Jnani is
Exactly.
open to ideas. Okay,
Hmm.
give me your
As
side of the story. Okay,
Mhm.
rather than ridiculing, lampooning people.
True.
Exactly.
True. True. True.
Boshaliti has mentioned how many times the structure of atom has been repudiated and challenged. Even today, we cannot exactly define an electron.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. There is there is a perennial, perpetual question of an electron even existing, whether it's an electron cloud, whether it's a wave, or whether it's a matter. Okay. So
Hmm.
still people are not able to answer the question. And one thing is very important, again, to understand, in terms of Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, okay, where it talks
Hmm.
about the uncertainty, a randomness which exists within our own existence. Now, that randomness which existence which we have, now that has been proven that it is something like that. Now you are going to search for a certainty whether you're knowing that it doesn't exist. You're looking for a
Mhm.
certainty where it is proven mathematically that you cannot have a certainty in special aspect of a state of an electron.
Yes.
Yeah, see, yes, because we are going to do a few more episodes on this specific aspect of Vedanta and science. How Vedanta, how Indian texts, whether they are Upanishads, whether they are Puranas, whether they are uh, Vedanta, they are actually talking about certain scientific concepts at the not at the mathematical level, but at a level of actually perspective and also theory itself. Okay. So actually, this will come somewhere down the line. We will have a scientist come and talk about this. And if you are talking about, there are a lot of scientists in India who talk about this, that the relationship between Vedanta and Vedantic concepts and science itself. I once, okay, this is a very interesting take. I once went to a lecture. This is Boshali Ranjina. She is writing in the comment section. I once went to a lecture by Dr. A. Ghosh of IIT Delhi. His final answer to what is an electron, we still do not know and perhaps can never answer it definitely. So that is from uh, a, a scientist who is in IIT Delhi. Yeah,
Yes.
over to you, Rishi.
Yes. Yes. Uh, Nothing much to comment. It's just explaining what kind of hypocrisy there lies, where uh, even if they say, supposedly they think that they have realized this whole truth of oneness, yet they have to, at the end of the day, interact with division and difference. And just because they have to flaunt their so-called rational credentials, they will totally junk out the whole devotional aspect, which actually is because of the admittance of difference between Jiva and Paramatma and Jiva and so on and so forth. So this whole conundrum is being totally like explained by Kanchi Mahaperyava in the above paragraph. Oh,
Okay,
okay.
let's do one thing. Okay, how many people who are listening to here know about what is the smallest Mandukya Karika, Mandukya Upanishad? How many people have heard about Mandukya Upanishad? And how many people know what Mandukya Upanishad talks about?
Uh,
Because correct, Rishi, we can do one reaction video, okay, on the
hmm,
famous
hmm,
lecture, a lecture Swami Sarapya Ananda did in IIT
hmm.
Kanpur, I think, correct,
Kanpur.
Kanpur.
IIT Kanpur.
There's a famous lecture on part
Yes.
one and part two
Who
is
am I?
there on
Hmm.
Mandukya Upanishad, correct,
Yes, yes. Who am I? Who
where
am I? Like so.
yes, yes, exactly, who am I, okay. That's a
Hmm,
very interest, like because he taught this to a university students, okay, in IIT
yes, yes.
Kanpur, and he had this
Hmm,
blackboard where he wrote everything. That's going to be a very
yes.
interesting thing. Like if people want, we can do a reaction video on that, okay,
Hmm,
and that is going to be very interesting to actually understand, because there are a lot of things to talk about, like who I am, mind, body, Turiya state, okay, deep state, sleep state of your mind, okay,
hmm,
because people
hmm,
are just doing meditation and they're understanding, okay, I will be a spiritually best person if I just do this half an hour of meditation. That is a
hmm,
stepping stone to something else. That that if you want to achieve what you want to achieve, that's just a stepping stone of it. So we
hmm,
can maybe someday, maybe if we don't have any podcast, let's see if I have any podcast or not. In that, then in
hmm.
the Saturday or Sunday, we can do this. It's going to be interesting.
True. Yes, we can actually.
Hmm.
Let's see.
Okay. So
So
I think.
I think some
Hmm.
paragraphs are left for this page at
Yeah.
least. We can maybe
Yeah.
finish this.
Let's.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's finish this.
Mhm. What is our own experience in this respect? Take the chapters on Jnana in the Bhagavad Gita, for example, or our Acharyas Viveka Chudamani, the Avadhuta Gita of Dattatreya, the Yoga Vasishtha of Vasishtha Muni, or say a hymn by Tayumanavar. When we read any of them, we are transported across Maya to an indefinable realm in the ocean of tranquility. There are examples of individuals who, after reading such works, have had the urge to leave hearth and home for the forest or for a cave in a mountain to remain there in solitude, delighting themselves in the Atman. If the authors of the work in question had not composed them without having experienced the supreme reality, how could their teaching have the power to move people? For argument's sake, it could be asked how it is possible for a Jnanin to become a devout person or for him to become a teacher to impart instruction in Jnana. Even if this may appear not possible, we must remember. I think we'll finish with this, the next part.
Go ahead.
Even if this may appear not possible, we must remember that the sport of Ishvara is such that there are no limits in it for what is possible and what is not possible. In it, such things like a jnani becoming a devout person and a teacher do happen. With this, we end today's reading. So, over here, Kanchi Mahapereva talks about the efficacy of those jnanis. Like if they did not uh, realize the truth, how is it that their works still affect people today? So much so that they get totally uh, affected by it, and even to the extent that they leave their own livelihood and become monks and live in solitude, realizing this very great truth. How is it that this is possible? And these the examples and the text which are given over here, like Bhagavad Gita or Viveka Chudamani or Avadhuta Gita of Dattatreya Muni or Yoga Vasishtha of Vasishtha Muni or Tayumanavar's Devarams, these are writings of those who were great bhaktas and also great jnanis. So this point is being mm, uh, put in again and again, then both are possible. Then he takes at last the argument that how is it possible for a jnani to be devout, or how is it possible for him to teach jnana, so on and so forth. So at last he ends with this, that in the sport of Ishvara, in the Leela of Ishvara, there is no such thing as a limit of what is possible and what is impossible. All of these are possible, in fact. And we may get to know this more in next paras and so on. Yes, Dada.
Yes. So I think. Hold on. Okay, we will. Okay. Okay. This is interesting. This is from Abhay. Indian atheists copy same anti-monotheistic core arguments given by Western atheists and apply it to Hindu texts. Yes, that is because of Ajnanata.
Yes.
We have to remember that honesty is very important. See, your intention would be flawed if you are not honest with yourself. That are you, have you? So people who are commenting on this, they have to be honest with themselves first, and that honesty has to come from ourselves. That have we read this? Even if I read this, have I read this in the context that it is written? Have I consulted multiple texts? I have consulted people to actually understand what is being read, what is being taught here. Okay. So that dishonesty unfortunately exists, and most people would be dishonest by nature, and then they will say, okay, I have read two lines of it. and that's all it's required for me to understand. Like I am the greatest genius ever born. Okay, I don't have to read 500 texts. I don't have to go to 500 teachers and understand it. I don't have to spend 10, 20 years learning about it. Okay. So that is something that is there, and then we have to deal with them. We have to tell them that how much you have read. I'll just second one more thing. So when we are talking about this specific thing regarding that how if they have not experienced the divine experience, okay, they cannot write this thing. So if I am reading and if I am feeling that energy of the writing, it means that person who is writing, who has experienced this by themselves. I forgot the name in Charvaka podcast or in Kushal Mehra's show. There was one Malayalam actress. Okay, she wrote a book. She wrote a book on this meditation and inner self, how to learn about your own inner self, and about philosophy and other things, and how she wrote this book. She actually, I forgot her name. I think it's 1.5 years ago she published a book on this as well. She's a Malayali actress. She was stuck. She was stuck in a retreat, in a meditation retreat for 4 months. So she had nothing else to do for 3 months as she was quarantined in that retreat, some ashram retreat. So she did meditation and reading for 3 to 4 months. Exactly, I don't remember. And while doing those intense meditations for 3 to 4 months, he realized by just being silent and doing meditation and reading text that okay, I am experiencing something which is beyond me. And she told to Kushal in the interview that that experience, that intense spiritual experience she experienced because of a tragedy which was happening outside to the whole world, which this book is born. And she says that okay, I can write 3 more books on this. The kind of experience, the kind of spiritual experience I had, like I had while doing those meditation, reading text with the guru's help. So that's what. So like if you cannot experience that thing, if you cannot feel that thing, that writing will never be able to encompass that and transfer this to the reader itself.
Exactly. Exactly. So beautiful. Like this is exemplified in all of the writings of the great saints in India, especially. Right. So, if today anybody reads Tulsidas ji's Ramcharitmanas, no one can escape the fact that he had such a realization of the grand truth and realization of the Devata, Sri Rama Bhagavan himself. The text totally does prakasham, and I don't know what kind of word can we use for that, because the writings of such great people who have experienced and lived their life, this is totally reflected in their own works and own utterings and own actions. In fact, Tukaramji, Santa Tukaram's abhangas, every single abhanga, it affects anybody. If one hears Tevaram, the Tevaram of the Shaiva saints of Tamil Nadu, like for example, the great Tirujnana Sambandar, the small child of 6 years who didn't know anything, who could not speak, who could not study well, could not speak well actually, who could not study well. When he was asked by his father to stay silent in a place while he was going to bath, when he had the realization, when Ma Durga comes to him, educates him, and he has the realization of Shiva, the kind of verses that comes out of him. To dudaya seviyan vidayeriyor தூவெண்மதி சூடி காதுடைய சுடலை புரிபூசியன் உள்ளங்கவர் கள்வன். These verses, these meanings of those verses totally like it blasts me till today. I cannot even speak clearly right now. It's such effects.
Yes, and the last question we will take, a comment we will take, and we will end the session. Even Sanatan
Yes.
Shashwat Singh, even the so-called Sanatani Hindu atheists who call themselves so-called Charvaka can also be destroyed in no time. See, it's important. Okay, this is Boishaliti is requesting. Rishi, could you explain the Tamiz verses a little? What you just recited. I'll finish that part.
Yeah, so this talks about the realization he had of Mahadeva. That small child of 6 years, he speaks that I saw the great man sitting on top of a bull, smeared in complete ashes, with Trishula, the Trinetra, the Jata, the Rudraksha. That has stolen my heart. It ends with those lines. Uh, காதுடைய சுடலை புடிபூசியன் உள்ளங்கவர் கள்வன் ஏதுடைய முரளா. It goes on and on and on. It's an amazing work. I cannot speak more on this.
Yeah, so we'll finish our. Hold on. Where is Sanatan Shastra's last comment? Here it is. So, understand one thing, that you are never going to have a civilization, a society, where people will not be questioning dharma itself. That is part of uh, part of Maya. Okay, the part of whole existence. Dharma cannot exist until somebody questions it. Rabindranath Tagore, I don't remember exactly, but I think Rabindranath Tagore had also mentioned this, that if people are opposing you, okay, for doing something, it is important. It will, and if what you are doing is you are convinced of something that you are doing, it will doubly reinforce your belief in that specific act. So opposition, don't take opposition of something as something which is negative, but take it as a positive. That you will go and revisit why you are doing this, why it's required, and if your belief is proper, you will come back and you will do this with double the intensity because you know why you're doing this. So opposition is not something which is negative, but it works also as a positive aspect of it. That your astha will grow stronger, grow more intense if you go and study more about it. So take it as a positive way, not as a negative way in many aspects. Rishi.
Yes, absolutely. This opposition that we get to see, it actually, and the kind of opposition we see, it actually proves our point. In fact, the kind of reactions that come out of their side, the kind of so-called refutations that they give up, and the kind of reactions that they show us when we respond to them. Actually, what you have said, what was repeated by Kobi Guru himself, it's true.
Yes. So okay. Let's finish our stream for today. Okay. Let's see if we can do one more stream tomorrow. Maybe if Rishi you are free, then we'll see.
Yes.
We can do, or maybe we'll do on the weekend. Okay. We'll
Yes,
do
yes,
it at the
yes. We
weekend.
can do. We can do it. Mhm.
Do it in the weekend. We'll explore more of these topics, on spirituality and philosophy.
Yes,
So this
yes,
gives
yes,
us more things to talk about it, which actually we need. We need to talk about these things.
yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So thank you everybody for joining, for being so late, and also joining us, sharing your comments, sharing your perspective, feedback. So thank you, Rishi, for your time. Really appreciate you coming and sharing your time, your knowledge with us. So
Thank you
Jai
so
Shri
much,
Ram.
Dada, for inviting me.
Yeah, Jai
Yes,
Shri
Jai Shri
Ram,
Ram,
Vande Mataram.
Vande Mataram.